I am an OG fan of DK. DKC2, one of my favorite games ever. Still replay it once a year. DK64, I don't give a fuck what people say about this game. I still love it and think it's great. But as an OG DK fan, I have been waiting a long time for not just a new entry, not just a new 3D entry, but also a new entry made specifically by Nintendo. So when DK Bananza was revealed, I was so stoked. And then when I learned when it was the 3D Mario team that made Odyssey behind it, it's like all these dreams were aligning. There was only one more dream left to see if it would come true, and we'll get to that in a minute. But for now, I just want to make a little quick, unscripted video about my overall thoughts on Donkey Kong Bananza. And overall, I fucking loved it. Oh my god. Really interesting take on a platformer because it's all based on like destructible environments. DK's new look, I was kind of iffy on it first, but you know what? It's kind of growing on me. It's very expressive and it doesn't harken too much back to the old weird kind of arcade design. It's a pretty good hybrid of that old Miyamoto style drawing and the things that Rareware implemented over time. Awesome worlds. At first, they were kind of interesting and different. Toward the middle, they started getting kind of generic, you know, the obligatory forest level, ice level. The world started getting really interesting again. Starting with the racing layer. Are you kidding? They made a whole level based on Diddy Kong Racing? And Dixie Kong was there. Dance Club one. And then the last one, which we'll get to that in a minute. Lots of good gameplay loops with all the collectibles and what you trade them in for and what you use them for. The feeling of destroying things. Like every time you punch something and break something and like see the pieces flying and hear the crunchy sound of it breaking. Oh, that's just like a little dopamine rush, dude. I loved it. The skill tree. Oh my god. They didn't even need to put that there, but they did. It made it so much better. Overall, I loved it. A few things that I did not like. The music, kind of mid. Maybe there were a few standout tracks that I'm not remembering. Maybe I've just been spoiled by David Wise and Grant Kirkhope, but the music wasn't bad, but it wasn't amazing. It was kind of mid. Maybe I'm alone in this, but does anyone else wish the destruction was permanent? Would that have messed up the game, or... This one's kind of nitpicked, not really that big of a deal. When I backtracked for the first time and went back to a previous level and saw that it was completely restored, I was kind of like, now I gotta, like, destroy all the same stuff again? It would have been cool if it was permanent, but whatever, maybe that doesn't matter. Not enough swinging, which was always a big part of all the DK games. Not enough swinging on vines or ropes or nothing. That could have made for some cool level traversal. And finally, is it just me, or does anyone else out there not really like Pauline? Pauline is kinda cringe. I like Pauline as a character. I liked her in Odyssey. I respect the hell out of her in the original Donkey Kong arcade. What else was she in? The Mario vs. DK games, I guess. She's cool in that. And I like this idea of her being a kid and this whole game is like an origin story that takes place before. And the voice actress, isn't she the same one that did the singing for Jump Up Superstar in Odyssey? And then they brought her back to do the songs for this game, and then she ended up doing the vocal work for all of Pauline's dialogue. She's got a great voice for acting and especially for singing, and maybe it wasn't even her fault, maybe it's how she was directed, but Pauline's voice work is so overly altruistic. It's too innocent and kiddie, and even the actual writing for her dialogue. I really wanted to like Pauline in this game, but just the voice work for a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the dialogue writing itself just kind of killed it for me. But we have reached the end of the list of stuff that I did not like about this game. Everything else, though, this is the game I was waiting for a long time, since DK64. In so many ways, it was a love letter to Donkey Kong fans. I mean, it's like full of references. I mean, for one, they brought back the... Are you kidding me? The fossils. At first, I wasn't even paying attention. I was just collecting stuff. But then when I went into the menu and looked at the fossils, I was like, this is all the old stuff from the old games. Some of the animal buddies that didn't appear in this one, they had the frog, they had naughties, they had the beavers. They were all like fossils of stuff from the old games that didn't appear in this one, as if they all went extinct. The animal buddies. A lot of like the tribes of animals that you meet in certain layers, those are all the same species as certain animal buddies. You had the ostriches like Espresso from DKC1. You had the rattlesnake tribe like Radley from DKC2. The zebras were a new one. And I like the new Kongs, the Voidco. Those are cool. And then one more thing I gotta mention is the lore. I mean, look, we know we shouldn't take Nintendo lore more seriously than Nintendo themselves do, but this can't just be some kind of throwaway detail, right? According to certain things that like Dixie and other characters said, it seems like all the Donkey Kong game all took place before Bananza, which is when DK met Pauline when she was still a kid, which means Bananza took place well before the Donkey Kong arcade, which is where I assume DK and Mario first meet and become frenemies. And then the whole Mario series, what, takes place after that, or between the time of Bananza and the Donkey Kong arcade? I mean, just the fact that there's something to be theorized over now. It's freaking bananas, man. But way better than any new Kongs or new enemies or new references to old stuff, there is one thing that perfected this game for me. Guys, I am an OG DK fan. King K. Rool and the Kremlings were always as crucial to the DK identity is to me, as much as Bowser and the Koopas and all that is to Mario. And I have said this in my DK video, I've been saying this every day to myself for my whole life since I was a kid. Where is K. Rool and the Kremlings? I have been waiting for them to come back since DK64. You know, like take Mario for example. Mario has faced lots of threats other than Bowser in the years since, right? Fawful, the Shadow Queen, all kinds of stuff. But Bowser and the regular crowd of enemies have still appeared often enough that whenever they don't, it feels refreshing, and you don't really mind their absence because they still appear enough in other stuff, both mainline and spin-offs. Can you imagine if Bowser hadn't appeared for 25 years? For the last 25 years, imagine every Mario game, no Bowser, no Goombas, no Koopas, no nothing. That's what it's felt like to be a DK fan for the last 25 goddamn years. When I started playing, I started noticing all the enemies in this game. I thought, one, they're very generic and weird and boring, because they all look like weird stone monuments and whatever the hell. And that's just the outside. You defeat that part, and then on the inside, it's like a gold skeleton of various different animals. But then I was like, there's a very reptilian-looking skeleton, and at first I thought, no way. There's no way. And then you play through the whole game, you get to the final level, and spoiler alerts. Dude, I'm so glad I stayed off the internet. K. Rool, he came back. Like, I can't even explain to you how stoked I was. We jump into the final hole after him, go to the final layer, those generic stone statue crocodile looking things, and then you beat them down, and underneath, it's not a gold skeleton of a crocodile, it's a fucking Kremling. Not just K. Rool is back, the Kremling army is back. And they look so good, and they make the same sound. The greatest sound in the history of video games. Oh, let me hear it again. Okay, one more time. Okay, 3 more times. And then you go in the next sub-layer, and there's more of those generic-looking enemies that you fought throughout the game. Those are all enemies from the past games, from the Kremling army. The weird flying enemy, that was the Crow. The big ball enemy that would roll around, that was the Armadillo. They had zingers. They had fucking kabooms. The little red Kremlings that were inside the red TNT barrels and fucking suicide bomb you. And then you get to the final fight with K. Rool. And it's awesome. And then they make another reference with the fake out ending. And then you make it to the surface, and it's New Donk City, which of course it is, but just the fact that it is, that's awesome. But then K. Rool makes it there also, and it's all menacing, and then he ends up with the banana core thingy and makes his wish, and he turns the whole place into like K. Rool City, and then you have the final boss fight with him. So epic. But here's where it gets a little disappointing. During the Kremling layer, I was thinking, okay, what is the post game for this game gonna be? Because Odyssey set a really high bar, and this is the same team as Odyssey, so I figured they're gonna either try to want to hit the same bar or even go higher than that. So in the post game, when you go back to all the worlds and you start trying to 100% everything, collecting all the collectibles, are all of the enemies now gonna retake their original appearance? Are they still gonna be gold skeletons underneath, or are they now gonna be this enemy from the past, or this one, or that one? That would have been amazing. But they didn't do that. I would have gone through every single layer again, looking for every enemy and trying to find out what were you the whole time. And another thing they didn't do is, again, Odyssey had those silver moon blocks, and they give you a whole bunch of other power moons to collect. And another thing, I knew there had to have been one post-game world. Odyssey had the Mushroom Kingdom, and it's a full level, packed full of references. It's incredible. And so I expected DK Island to be the post-game level. Instead, Ingot Isle, it made for a good level. Then just like a couple months later, they revealed the DLC, and it's DK Isle, and it looks awesome. It's the old Rareware one, where it's like a big mountain shaped like DK's face, the ruins of the pirate ship from DKC2. Diddy and Dixie are back, Cranky and Rambi are there, Squawks is there. You explore the whole place. It's fun, it's awesome, it's great. But it's not a full, complete level like all of the other layers. There's no Banandium gems, there's no fossils. This thing should have been treated like the Mushroom Kingdom was in Odyssey. It should have been made into a full level. Feels like there's nothing really to do there except just take a little nostalgia trip and do the other major part of the game's DLC. This should have not been DLC, especially for 20 bucks, not worth it. This should have been just part of the game, bro. Odyssey was way bigger and way grander in most ways, especially in the post game, and that game had no DLC. You know how refreshing it was to be sold a full complete game with no DLC in the year 2017? What, is 2025 too late for that? So the post game for DK Bananza, kinda disappointing. However, overall, I fucking love this game. Donkey Kong Bonanza was amazing, and in so many ways, it is everything that I, an OG DK fan, have been waiting for 25 years, and I am mostly satisfied. But what about you? Hit the like button, sub to the channel, and let me know in the comments how much you loved DK Bonanza.